I used 20 palettes in the month of April, and I'm going to honestly rank them for you guys. Hello, my gorgeous ones. Welcome to Alicia Budget Beauty. My name is Alicia. Here on my channel, I love all things affordable fashion, beauty, and fragrance. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, palette rankings, all sorts of fun stuff. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe, stick around, be a friend. All right, you guys, so I used 20 palettes in the month of April, and I was pretty intentional about that because there were a couple of new palettes to my collection that I did purchase myself that I really wanted to be able to get to know, use several times, and I realized, ooh, I haven't used a whole lot of palettes this month. So then I started coupling some palettes and looks so I could get more palettes in here. There are a few that I'm going to actually declutter, and then there are some big winners in here. So let me go ahead and get into these 20 palettes. Okay, so starting at number 20, and I will tell you guys, you'll get a little bit of a sneak peek here because I am gonna do a declutter video soon of eyeshadow palettes over 40. So that will be coming shortly. So you'll see this in there again, but I am from Texas. This is the Tarte Gilded palette. Amazonian clay palette. Now these came in a duo, a holiday little duo set a year and a half ago, I believe. The other one is the Glamour palette, I think. This is the Gilded. Here's what she looks like inside. I love this packaging though. Truth be told, this was gorgeous packaging. I love slim, sleek palettes. I wish more would do that, but here's what it looks like. A very, very neutral palette with some rosy tones in here. This is not a horrible palette. It's really, really not. I'm trying to get more critical of my collection. I'm bringing in so much stuff all the time, whether it's makeup, perfume. I bring in more perfume than anything right now, you know, and fashion stuff. A lot of it I purchase on my own. A lot of it is gifted to me. And it's just so much coming in that I'm being like stricter and sterner than ever with my collection, decluttering things, letting things go. So this is at the bottom, and really it's not horrible, but it's not amazing either. At this point, I keep telling myself, don't, you know, keep palettes that are just okay. This is not my declutter video. I don't need to tell you all that, but it's pretty, you know. Tarte is like, it can either be pretty lackluster quality or it can be good. This is a good formula. It's just not something that I personally need in my collection. It's not something that was very exciting to me. So that's why it's at number 20. At number 19, this will also, spoiler, be in the declutter video, but is the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. Now, I know at one point this was a pretty beloved palette. I was a little bit late in getting this. I think I got it maybe 2 years ago, something like that. I really have not used it a whole lot. I'd say I've used it 3 or 4 times only. And I think it's because the formula's just okay. Huda's definitely improved some formulas here, like a whole lot. Like Rose Quartz, I adore that palette. I don't foresee me ever decluttering that palette. The formula's a lot better in there. This is just kind of dry. I mean, the shimmers are just very lackluster in here. You do have this kind of weird pressed glitter that kind of has a moldy look on it to me too, that I'm like kind of scared to use. The mattes are just like okay. I really like the tones. I think it's a pretty palette. It just doesn't live up to newer formulas for me. At number 18, again, we'll be in a declutter video. I'm not spoiling everything because I'll have like 40 more palettes in that video, but we have the IBY Wonderland eyeshadow palette. Now, this is a good palette. It really, really is. Here's what she looks like. I think the color story is really pretty. You have to like some kind of muted mid-tones, cool tones in here. But there's a few shimmers in here that almost make me want to keep it. But then there's some in here that aren't as good either. And so I'm like, girl, you know. So we have this one here. I think it is All That Glitters. This one is kind of a, let me see if I can get you guys to see it. It's this antique gold shimmer that I really, really love. See, I mean, it swatches really pretty. I also really love this Witchcraft shade. It's kind of an icy silvery blue. This again is not bad. It's just for me, when I really studied it and studied the mattes in here, they're all these, there's only true mattes. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 true mattes that are all browns, except for you have this kind of deep rose color. It's just not inspiring to me. The shimmers are nice, but it's one of those I've outgrown for sure. So is the Tarte Pro Remix palette. I actually do really like this palette, and this one is definitely not one for the mattes because there are only 2, which I kind of don't even, I guess I understand if you're only gonna put 2. I get that it's a taupey brown and a black, because if you're only going to put 2 mattes, you might as well put a black to smoke out and then a brown for the crease, I guess. All the rest are metallics in here, shimmers, and even like a duo in here, a couple of duos. It's really not that bad. I've always really liked this packaging as well. I think it's fun, kind of gives me that like 80s splatter paint vibes. So I don't know that I will keep this forever. Right now, it won't be in my declutter video. It's one of those that I always think I'm probably going to declutter, and I try to, for the most part, not always, but a lot of times I will go ahead and use a palette that I'm thinking I might declutter and see if using it changes my mind or not. Every time I use this, my look kind of changes my mind. So I do think it's more of a companion palette. Can't promise it won't end up in a future declutter, but for right now, I'm keeping it, and it is number 17. Coming in number 16, and here on out, I really do like all these palettes. I just had to put it somewhere. So this is the LA Girl Hey Hey Vacay. And I'm actually just gonna go ahead and show you guys this one too. So we have 16 and 15, right? Yeah, 16 and 15 here. I almost just like flipped a coin of which one I was gonna put in which spot. I put this one slightly higher just because I really like the tones of this just slightly more. I mean, this you get more of a like tropical neutrally vibe here, whereas this one's just a little bit more like earthy. These palettes are so good. I've always raved about LA Colors formula for the price, and then I even thought, all right, you know, you've been saying that for years and years and years, but you do have a lot of palettes now, a lot of formulas. Let's go ahead and use them and see, do you really need to keep these? And I really liked them. I'm gonna have some LA Colors, LA Girl palettes in my declutter video. Nothing wrong with the formula. It was just, I'm trying to weed through, and it was more of a color story thing for me. But I get gorgeous looks from these. I mean, really pretty looks. I love like some of the peachy tones in this one. I love the golden tones in this one. If you're on a budget and need a really good eyeshadow palette, I do highly recommend these. Okay, coming in at number 14 is another Tarte palette. It is the Tarte Man-Eater palette. And 14 feels a little low for this because I genuinely love this palette. Again, like the sleekness of this packaging. I wish so many more palettes looked like this. It looks so luxe. It looks like a little mini like laptop or something. But most people do know this color story already. And I don't know that I'll ever declare this one either. Maybe if I had to in the future, but it's just a really easy go-to that's always gonna look good. If I just want something with like really pretty shimmers and just like easy mattes to blend out that's like neutral, but maybe some pops of like pinky champagne in there, this is something that I reach for. I really enjoy this palette. At number 13, okay. So I'll just show both at the same time. They don't have anything to really do with each other than the fact that I have them both on my eyes at the same time today. So I put at number 13, the Alva 2 Oden Eye palette, and I put at number 12, the Micka Beauty Serpent palette. So, okay, again, let me just show you guys my look. I think it's really pretty. Not something I probably would have put together, but I wanted to use both of these again before the ranking. And I was like, you know what, let me just put them together. So I did an unexpected duo. So here is Alva 2, basically a pastel-y rainbow, like a little bit more saturated than a pastels, but kind of like the rainbowy pastel vibe. And then here is the Serpent palette. And I know a lot of people were waiting for my review and thoughts on this palette. So let me go ahead and start with this. And the reason why I have it at number 13, I do really like this palette. This was only, I used it 2 times this month, and I used it 1 time a long time ago before that. So I've only used it 3 times. Crazy, it looks so much to me like the Glaminatrix pastel palette. Now that I'm looking at it, well, not just right now, but when I got it out to use this month, I never really noticed the vertical, you know, rows of colors in this before I used the Glaminatrix one. And then I got this out, I was like, oh, that's very, very similar. It's just missing a row, I believe. But so I did use most of these shades in a look, and then I haven't really messed with the greens, but I did use the blues today. I used this blue shimmer. It's actually in the inner corner. And then I used this blue matte here in this portion. Worked really, really well. I love this shade right here, almost makes me want to keep it. It is Peach Juice. And whereas this palette, these are gonna have opposite kind of reviews here. So the mattes in here perform so well, and they are punchier than they look in the palette. Like this Pinky Peach is so vibrant and almost neon. I used it in the inner corner in a look and really, really loved it. There are some kind of glittery shades in here. Oden's Eye often does like different textures within a palette. So I do love this copper red. I have it underneath one of the multi-chromes in here. So this one, different than that one, is that the mattes in this appear much less pigmented than they do in the palette on the eye. So this one, for instance, forewarning, this drew me to the palette. I thought, ooh, this like bright neon yellow, almost like a green tone to it, but it's this neon yellow. It is so pale. And then also the orange in here really drew me to this palette because it looked, it's kind of hard to tell in this lighting, but it looked like it was going to be almost a neon orange, and it's more of a very muted pumpkin orange. Now, at first that really disappointed me. I used this palette, I think for, this was either the 4th or 5th time today, and I'm filming this on the last day of April. And at first I was disappointed in the mattes because I was like, they're not that pigmented, they're muted, they take a lot of building up. But I did really like my looks, and I didn't find that as I built them up that there was any patchy or muddiness to them. So I do really like that. But I really enjoy the special shades in here. I think that they're really, really lovely. This is what I'm wearing today. This reincarnation is a purple blue shift, and I have it just on top of that red copper shimmer from the Alva 2. I love this look. I'm really, really digging it. I also wanted to use this today because I had not used Netherlands yet, the purple. A lot of times purples can be patchy. I didn't have a terrible issue blending it out. I used Temptation to blend it, and I think that worked nicely, but it wasn't like a very smooth purple, I will say. So, man, I'm pretty comfortable where I have this ranked. You know, it's kind of in the middle of the pack. I think it's a really good palette. I still need to use it some more. I don't think it's a great palette. And for how much shipping costs from the UK, I will say I do not think it was worth what I paid for it. I will say that, but I am still happy to have it. I don't see me really decluttering it. Some fun looks. I just think if you're gonna pay for shipping, it's overpriced for the performance of the mattes. Okay, coming in at number 11 is the Davini Cosmetics Fantasia palette. I love this little palette. I find this really reliable when I don't want to go full on super bold colorful, but I don't want something neutral, or if I want something in that kind of like unicorn vibes, obviously there's a unicorn. This is just what I reach for. I used this for a very, very quick look. I was in a hurry, needed to just do something real fast, get out the door. I only used 2 shades. I used this matte here, and then I think I used this shimmer here, I'm pretty sure, just for like a peachy sort of sunset look. I did it in like literally 30 seconds total for each eye. And for that, I love it. I think it's really pretty. It would never be, I don't think, at the tops for me, but it's just a reliable, beautiful palette. Okay, 10 and 9 I'm also going to show together because it's same brand and was kind of hard to choose. But we have Wicked Widow Beauty and we have the Lovesick and then the Tea Time palette. So I ended up putting Lovesick at number 10 and Tea Time at number 9. But really I could interchange them. I think these give such beautiful looks. Like this one is a very like romantic, classy look with some special shades in it. Really, really beautiful when I want to do something lavender mauve. This is a perfect one that I want to be more special than just like, you know, some like generic brand. This gives you those special shades. And then the Tea Time palette, I almost ranked this higher because I don't find it as versatile for eyeshadows. Like you have to want bright, you know, which is great. It's a very springy, summery palette. But I also love using these two as blushes, either by themselves. I love a yellow blush. And this is a perfect tone for a yellow blush. And I love this pink tone for a blush as well. But then mixed or ombre effect with these two, yellow here, pink here, or vice versa, is so pretty. So for me, it's just such a good twofer. I adore Wicked Widow Beauty, by the way. Adore. But anyway, yes, this is number 10 and number 9. At number 8, we have the Citrus Punch palette by Simply Posh Cosmetics. This was kind of hard to put at number 8 because I think it's a really good palette. I just really like some of my other ones that I used this month. It's just the ultimate summer palette. It makes me happy. I'm a summer girl, so when I see this, I get really, really giddy. I guess I just put it here because you have to want that vibe. Like you have to want the punch looking vibe, a citrus looking vibe, summery, bright. Obviously you're not gonna get like a nuance of anything smoky or like a lot of depth. I mean, you can get some depth out of using this shade here, but it's just a happy, happy palette with a really nice formula. Coming in at number 7 is the Heaven on Earth palette. And I love this palette and I could definitely rank it higher if it was against other palettes, but I love the tones in here. I find them so, so flattering. Every time I use this, I adore the blues in here, the blues. They are so pretty. I love the greens too, but like, I feel like who wouldn't love these greens? You know, not everyone is keen on blue eyeshadow, but these tones I feel like are very, very wearable because it just looks almost like denim, you know, on the eyes. And then you have these earthy tones here. There's not a ton of variation here. Maybe that's why I have it at 7. It's either going to look pretty neutrally earthy or it's going to have like a blue vibe. That's the color story, but the formula is excellent. It is one of my favorite Sydney Grace for sure. Coming at number 6 is the Adept Flying Fiddles palette. Now some may be like, oh my gosh, that seems a little low for Adept and everything. I really love this palette. I don't know. It just, every time I use it, I'm like, I love my look. It's really pretty. It's just not one that I always, you know, like if I'm driving in the car and I catch my reflection that I just stare at and I'm amazed at, I'm like, it's pretty. It is a very, very elevated neutrals, earthy tones look. You know, it is appropriate for everyday look. I don't think it's too much. I think you could really wear this anywhere. It's just not one that like excites me as much as others, but the formula is amazing. And I do think it's very wearable for sure. And I mean, Adept is hard to beat. All right, coming in at number 5, it makes me happy to rank this high. It is the Alter Ego Wildwood palette, which was Alter Ego's little Natasha Denona Yucca palette dupe. I have a video on this. Several of these I have videos on, you know, with multiple looks, but this palette just really, really surprised me, really made me happy. I think it surprised a lot of people. It sold very, very well, which makes me happy. And it's also one that really gave the original a run for its money. There are some things I like better about this palette than the Yucca palette. One of those is just that it's a little bit brighter. Like it has a little bit more oomph to the mattes than the Yucca palette does. So I enjoy that about it. The shimmer formula in here is great. Definitely Alter Ego's best palette to date. I loved my looks with this palette. I got a lot of good responses from the looks as well. Crazy to me that it came from such an inexpensive palette. So that is Wildwood by Alter Ego. Coming in number 4 is the Aura Lights by Simply Posh Cosmetics. And on a different day, this could definitely rank number 1 even. This is, if not my favorite palette by Simply Posh, I think it is, but it may be, I think it may be. I know I said that before when I did the video on this when it released. I was like, I think it's my new favorite. And then I've continued to use some Simply Posh and then I'll fall in love with that palette. But I really think this is their best formula though, for sure. And I just didn't get to do like a real exciting look with it. I really did like my look this month, but you only used it once this month. So that's why I put it here. I mean, number 4 is still really high. Solid brand that I'm really excited for their next launch coming. I think it got held up a little bit. I'm not sure, but it should be coming soon. So that is Aura Lights by Simply Posh. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Glaminatrix Cosmetics Into the Night. This is honestly one of my favorite palettes in my whole collection. Love it so much. It dropped to number 3 in this month just because the other 2 had something that just really excited me about them. But this is a go-to for me. I mean, if I'm like, I just want something really fun and bright and like special and to feel like a cool girl out, you know, in the night. I mean, it's called Into the Night, then I would reach for this. And then also it has a really nice, like grungy element to it too, like this kind of muted swampiness to it. So I just love the versatility of like the duality here, that you could go one or the other or a mixture. This is just, it'll always be one of my favorite palettes. Coming in at number 2 is the Ascension palette by Davini Beauty. So I did a video on this a while back where I did 3 looks. I think I did 3 looks and I absolutely fell in love with this palette. I had to reach for it again this month because, you know, I try to go through my collection so I can show y'all different palettes so I can really make sure I know my collection well, give old palettes love. And then sometimes I'm like, man, like, why haven't I reached back for this that I said is one of the best palettes of the year? So reached back into it, loved my look again. This time I tried to do a different combination than I had done before. And I just continue to be so inspired by this palette. I have this one shade that keeps busting and it's like one of my favorite shades in here. It like breaks my heart, but it is Vega. I've repressed it like 4 or 5 times. It's a very soft formula, but it's beautiful. I love these tones down here. This palette's so yummy to me. I don't know how she tops this color story in the future. And coming in at number 1 is an Adept palette, and it is the Cyborg Choir palette. You guys, when I talked about when you catch your reflection and you just stare, that is what this palette gives me. I was kind of blown away because I think I've lowered my expectations a little bit with Adept because I already know the formula is amazing. I expect that. I just think sometimes with color story, I'm like some palettes I think are amazing. Others I'm like Flying Fiddles. I wasn't like as excited about. These are just those that when they get on the eyes, they're unreal. Like it's just magic. The compliments that you get, it's just like people are like, what is on your eyes when you're out in the real world? The mattes are like good. They're not like amazing. I do think they've gotten better. I still would love to see just 2 more mattes. Like I'd hate to take away these gorgeous shades here, but 2 more mattes and it would just be like unbeatable. But like, I loved my looks with this, just beautiful. I keep saying like with Adept, the next palettes that come out, the color story has to grab me more than the last one for me to want to purchase. I'd have to imagine that the next one would give me prettier looks than this one, or I'm probably going to pass on a future one until they do something that blows my mind. That is it, you guys. Those are the 20 palettes I used in the month of April. Let me know what some of your favorites were, what some of your busts were. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have fun shopping, budget shopping. Bye.